So we're officially into well, not officially into free agency, but we're basically into free agency. It's the legal tampering period, whatever you want to call it. And there have been 4 players who have been franchise tagged, 2 of which I have a fairly strong opinion on, and 2 I don't. I'd like to share my opinion a little bit on all of them. Josh Jacobs is the first one I'm going to start with. Josh Jacobs, the running back for the Raiders, is expected to be franchise tagged if the Raiders cannot come to an agreement on an extension with him, which they wouldn't be in this spot if they would have just used his 5th-year option, but here we are. So this one is one of the most challenging for me because I'm in the camp that you shouldn't give running backs big money, and Josh Jacobs is deserving of big money. This is what's challenging, is it's hard for me to look at players from last season like Dameon Pierce and Isaiah Pacheco, just some recent examples, who are both later round picks and provided great value to their teams, the running back position, and then in that same breath, try to explain to you why you should pay Josh Jacobs. My opinion on what the Raiders should do here has absolutely nothing to do with how I feel about Jacobs, the player, because quite frankly, he's an excellent player. He is great. It makes sense why the Raiders would want to keep him. The Raiders are very likely to be bringing in a young quarterback this draft, and it's wildly sensible to want to have an excellent running back like Josh Jacobs to establish a running game and take some pressure off of your young quarterback. But I still wouldn't do it. For the reason I mentioned before, running backs are a dime a dozen position, it feels like, and there's a lot of good ones out there, and you can get great value at later rounds and get good running backs without sinking a bunch of money into it. So if he is willing to take a team-friendly deal to come back to the Raiders, which I don't think he is, I wouldn't bring him back. If he's not willing to accept a team-friendly deal, let someone else pay for an undervalued position in today's NFL. It sucks. He's a great player, but it's just tough. Tony Pollard, another running back for the Dallas Cowboys, was also franchise tagged. And the Cowboys absolutely shouldn't have franchise tagged Tony Pollard. Once again, this has nothing to do with how I feel about Pollard, the player, but how I feel about the Dallas Cowboys in this move. The Dallas Cowboys this season will be spending almost $28 million on their running back room this season, which is the highest in NFL history. In an NFL where the running back position is becoming increasingly devalued, the Cowboys are spending the most on running backs in NFL history. Let that marinate for a second. And I get it. I understand why they made this move. Zeke is a little over the hill, and Tony Pollard is extremely explosive and is potentially their best skill position player. But they should have spent this money getting another wide receiver. Right now, for their pass catchers, they have CeeDee Lamb, a reliable Dalton Schultz at tight end, and then just a bunch of guys. And Dalton Schultz, their tight end, might be leaving in free agency. It is a quarterback league, and it is a passing league, and right now, the Dallas Cowboys have only one real receiving target. You don't need another running back. There was better places to spend that money. The other 2 players that got franchise tagged are Daron Payne from the Commanders, which I understand why they franchise tagged him. I believe they non-exclusive franchise tagged him, which means another team could claim him for 2 first-round picks, which it just makes sense. He's a great player. The Commanders want to keep him around. The other that got franchise tagged is Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram also makes perfect sense to have franchise tagged. He clicked with Trevor Lawrence, and you want to keep as many good, productive players, which he was this season, around your young quarterback. Those 2 just make a ton of sense. I don't have any reason to disagree with those 2 players being franchise tagged. Don't have huge opinions on them. They just make sense.